In this tutorial, I'm going to work on this Bushel apron. It's a recently new pattern that the Quilted Cow put out that's exclusive to them. And it's super cute, and all it does is this drawstring opens, and this is like gathered. So if you're like out in the garden and you can stuff like potatoes or carrots or flowers or whatever, and then it just all gathers and you can tie it back at the waist. There's a little loop that it goes through, and everything that you gathered can just hang out in your apron until you make it back to the house or wherever you are going. So I thought it was super cute. I got a couple kits. The one in the tutorial I'm going to be using is this one, and it comes with all the fabric that you need. And if you are making it on your own, you'll need 1 yard of your main exterior fabric, which is going to be this white one, super cute, and your accent fabric lining, you need 7/8 of a yard. So there it is. And of course you need all the other tools, to ruler, cutter, and so let's get going. Alright, so here is my fabric cutout. I have my main exterior, which is this is a giant piece right there. You have a waistband that's right here, and then in the second fabric you have the lining, you have a hanging loop piece, and then you have 2 of these that are going to be the ties. So let's get started putting it all together. Alright, so if you've ever made ties before, it is just like what you do if you're normally making ties. Here's one that's already finished. They are quite skinny, and I top stitched all the way around the perimeter. Started on the short side and back tacked, and then just sewed all the way around and mat back up. But if you've not done ties before, it's just a little time consuming, but it's pretty simple. First thing you're going to do is, because you don't want any raw edges on the end, you need to fold over your short ends and tuck them in and give them a good press. The pattern tells you how much to tuck them in. Once that's tucked in on both sides, then you're going to fold it in half and you're going to press all the way down, and that's going to give you your center line, which you need. Once you have your center line pressed in, you're going to open that back up, and you can see right there, there's my center line. And then you're going to take each raw edge long side and fold it into the center, and you're going to do that all the way down and give it a good press. And then finally you're just gonna take it and fold it in half again, and that will give you your strap. Okay, this is very common when you're doing any type of drawstring or bags, and then you just take it to the machine and stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this one all around. Alright, so this is the hanging loop, and what I did was, when it was wrong side out, I folded long sides together and I stitched all the way down, and now I'm pulling one end through the other, and this is creating the tube that I will need for my hanging loop. So I'm just going to finish pulling that through, and then once I pull it through, I'm just gonna, there's a seam right there, I'm just going to make sure it's lying on the side and then give that a good press so everything lays nice and flat. Alright, so I got my ties done, I've got my hanging loop done. Now we're moving on to the waistband, and there should be, hold on, gotta find the other piece. Okay, so I hadn't cut a second one. Whoops, you're supposed to have 2 of the waistband pieces, so I just cut a second one. You don't really get hardly any excess fabric in this kit. You pretty much have enough that you need, so be really careful on your cuts. And you're gonna take the second one and you're gonna attach these, and you're just gonna lay like it's hanging down there. You're just gonna lay one short end to short end here, right sides together, and then you're just gonna stitch here along the seam. So here they are pieced together. I just opened that seam and pressed it flat, and that's what it will look like. This is going to be the center mark. This seam where they're pieced together is going to be your center mark. But anyway, on each of the short ends, I pressed each of the raw edges in a little bit according to the pattern, and then I just folded it in half all the way down and gave it a good press. So it's quite long, but here's the other side. You can see I pressed that in, and then all it's done is just press it all in half like that. So what you're going to do next is you're going to take your lining and your exterior piece, and you're going to put them and line everything up right sides together. And this is the length here, which is also the width of your apron. And what you're going to do is, after you have them, you can pin, clip, or you can free sew. you're going to sew the side, and then you're going to sew along the bottom, and then the side. Mine is directional fabric here, so I have my fabric going the right direction, so this is the bottom for me. So if you have directional fabric, just make sure that the bottom is actually the bottom of your directional fabric, because you wouldn't want this to be the top, otherwise your fabric is going to be upside down. So just be careful. This is non-directional, so it doesn't really matter which way that goes. If you have non-directional for both of them, don't worry about it. Alright, now I'm going to sew these together, and then once you have them sewn together, you're going to turn it inside out. You're going to poke out your corners, and then press all your seams, the sides and the bottom that you sewed nice and flat. Alright, so here's what it looks like. This is the sewed side that's inside out, and there is the top with the raw edges. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make the casing here. So we're going to take you're going to do this all the way down. You're going to take the raw edge and you're going to fold it over. So I'm on paragraph 1, 2, 3. The 5th paragraph of the pattern, just a one-page pattern. You're going to fold it down first according to how much it wants you to fold down. And then you're going to fold it and give it a good press all the way across. And then you're going to fold it again over according to the pattern. And that's going to give you the casing that your drawstrings are going to go into. And if you don't have a hot ruler yet, get yourself a hot ruler, because you can put the ruler right under your fabric, flip it down, and press right over it. So it helps you really, it's this very simple and easy way of being able to measure as you press. All right, Quilted Cow sells them. They're amazing. I've got 2 of them. And if you haven't seen the hot ruler, this is what the hot ruler looks like. It's already under. It's got all the measurements like a regular ruler, and I've measured what I need, and I can just use my iron and press right over it. It's so amazing. So definitely worth the investment if you don't have one already. Okay, so that's what it looks like. You had the first fold and then the second folds, and I gave it a good press. The pattern does say to pin. I'm not going to pin. I'm going to try to get away with not pinning it. But anyway, what I'm doing now is I've just folded right sides together because I want to find the center line of this fabric. So now that I found the center, I'm just going to give it the best finger press that I can. You can even take it to the iron and iron this down, because I want to be able to see that when I open it back up, which I totally can. It's right there. And now the pattern is going to have you, from that center line mark, you're going to measure out on both sides the first time according to the directions, and then from that line you're going to measure, well, let me see. Oh, so the first time a little bit according to the pattern, and then from the same line a second time, and you're going to do both of those markings. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. Alright, so here is my center mark, and I just marked it because I could see a little bit easier when I was measuring, and I measured out the first time, and then I stood there and measured out the second time and just marked everything really good. And while I was making this video, I noticed that this side looked a little different than this side, and I ended up remeasuring, and this is actually not a mark. I just scribbled on it, and I had to remark. So always a good idea to check them. If you're worried about, it's purple, I use the friction pen, and the Quilted Cow sells them, and they're great because I can mark. They come in different colors, and as soon as you put heat to it, it just disappears, and I don't see any residual effects of the friction pens. Alright, so now I am going to start at one end here, and make sure that's folded over, and I'm going to sew maybe about 1/8 of an inch along the bottom of the fold. So you're not sewing up here, you're sewing here, because you're going to sew this part down to the exterior. You're going to sew all the way and when you get to your markings, hold on, I'm just reading it. Okay, you're going to stop at this first mark, and you're going to back tack, and then you can just pick up and just pull it through and put your presser foot down here, so you're not sewing between here and here. So this is the center line, and so I'm just going to pick it up and pull the fabric down and then replace it and make sure my needle comes down here, and then I'm going to stitch here. Alright, I'm going to stitch from this line through the center to the other first line, and I'm going to back tack, And then I'm going to pick up my needle and pull this down and then put my needle down here and then back tack and continue sewing all the way down. So this is going to be an opening and this is going to be an opening, but everywhere else is being stitched. So here it is. Hopefully you can see there's a little opening there, that's stitch closed, and there is a little opening there that's not stitched down. Alright, so I get to use this. The casing is just big enough that this budkin will fit through. If you don't have one of these, they don't fit through all casings. They have to be a little bit wider because this is a little bit wider. But when you do have a wide enough casing, these are great pulling elastic or drawstrings through. So I just open this up. I'm going to clip it on to the end, and it does hold really well. And then I just put this white part down, and it's pretty secure. And now this is the end of my apron. So this is the casing end. And I'm just going to insert insert this here. See, it's going through. And now I'm just going to start pulling it. Well, I don't know if it will go through the other side. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have to back up and figure this out. But hopefully it does. That'd be so sad if it didn't. So I'm just pulling it until I get to my opening here. And there's my opening, going past it. So let's see if it'll work. Okay, so there's my opening, and gonna put the end through. If it doesn't work, I'm just gonna have to go back and use. So there's the end there, and I'm just gonna keep pulling until hopefully I get the head out. Please work. If not, then yeah. Okay, it looks like it's coming through. Yes. Always a good sign. There it comes. Just be gentle with it. Don't want to rip anything. But I do want it to come through because I've already did that work. Oh, there it is. Okay, came through, and I've got a string there to cut. So I'm just going to cut that. Alright, and I'm going to undo this. Got another string there to cut. Looks like I was pulling some strings through. I have to just clean up a few strings. Alright. Oh, that one even came further. Okay. So now I'm just going to pull this drawstring through. And this is back to the end, so that's the middle. And this is the end here. And I'm going to pull it just so that the end gets inside there. See, it's just... You just want it barely in there, okay? So there it is. So now I'm going to take this to the machine, and I'm going to sew down the side there, and that's going to secure that drawstring inside the casing so it doesn't move for now, okay? Well, it doesn't move ever, but especially now, because I don't want to do all that work and it just comes out. So at the end here, short side, so that it sews through both sides of the apron and through that drawstring there. And then I'm going to repeat this process to the other side with my second drawstring. Okay, so that's what it looks like there. There's the drawstrings, and here is one end stitched down. Alright, let's keep moving. Alright, so I kind of flipped my piece, and I made sure the exterior was right side up. See, here's my casing, and this was all the way at the bottom, like the ties are like right there. So this was hanging down, so the ties were at the bottom, and then I just took my casing and I folded it up so right sides are together. And then I needed to stop folding it off about an inch from the top, okay, all the way down. It should measure about an inch all the way down. That's why I like these long wonder clips, because they reach. All right, and so you're especially going to pin the sides, and what you're going to do is you're going to stitch up the sides. And when you stitch up the side, you need to stop when you get to the casing. You don't want to sew over the casing. So you're going to start at the bottom, or you can start here from the top of the casing. And so according to your seam allowance, make sure you back tack at the beginning all the way down to the bottom, and you're going to do that to both sides, and then you're going to turn everything right side out. Alright, so here's what one side looks like. I sewed up 1/4 of an inch, and I stopped right at the casing, so that part is, the casing part is not sewed down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this right side out and then give everything a good press. So what I'm doing now is I'm pleating the top here. So how I've interpreted it, and I hope it's right, is I started in the center and I already had the center marked from here. I hadn't pressed that. So I was able to find the center, and then I started pleating all the way down one side, and now I'm pleating on the other side. Okay, I hope you can see this pretty okay, but oh, I need my ruler. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm lining my ruler. This is my Quilted Cow ruler. It's great size, and it's even got 1/2 inch measurements on one side. Just right up against or where I've ended my last pleat. And then from there, I'm measuring 1.5 inches out, which is right there. And then I'm grabbing it, and then I'm folding it over, and that should be about 1/2 inch. And so that's about 1/2 inch. You can even measure it to make sure it's about 1/2 inch, and if it's not, you can let up a little bit. And then I'm just clipping it in place, and then I repeat the process. So measure out 1.5 inches, which is right there, and then I grab and I pleat about 1/2 inch, which that looks about right, and then I put a clip in it, and again line up 1.5 inches is right there, and then I do about 1/2 inch of a pleat, and then I put a clip in it, and then I line up, and it's about 1 inch right there. And so that's just going to take me to pleat towards the end. That one's not quite 1/2 inch, it was a little short, but I got it pleated to the end, and I put a clip in it right there. So that is how I did all of my pleating for all the way down, starting at the center, working out to one side, and then going back to the center and working out toward the other side. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on one end, and I'm going to stitch. You can do base stitch. Base stitch is just the longest length of stitch you can do. I'm just going to use a regular stitch because it will hold still. And maybe about 1/8 inch, I'm just going to sew all the way down 1/8 inch from the top edge here, and that's going to just hold all of those pleats in place for me, so I can get rid of all these clips or pins, whatever you chose to use. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Stitched down. They weren't my friend. They really wanted to shift a lot, so I had some readjustments to do. But I think it looks pretty good. Now everything's tucked down in place. Let's go into the next step, which I think is the hanging loop. Alright, so I folded end to end where the pleats are, and I found the center, and I gave it a good mark. And I'm going to take my hanging loop, and I'm just going to place the ends, the raw edges, on either side of that mark. And I'm going to go and I'm going to base stitch that in place. I'll just try sewing over that line that I've already got there. So that is stitched down there. Alright, so for the waistband, here's my waistband. Remember, this center line was going to be the center of the waistband, and I already know where the center is. It's right between the hanging loop. So this is the raw edge up here, and I've just aligned it and clipped it to the top of the apron. And I will start here at the end. Where's the end? Right there. And I'm going to sew, watch your seam allowance. The pattern clearly states what your seam allowance is here. It's the last paragraph of the pattern. And you're going to stitch that all the way down. And you're going to stop when you get to the end. You're not going to sew all the way down here because there's a way to hide these raw edges on the excess tail. Okay, so just stop. Only begin at the beginning of the apron and end here at the end. Don't stitch all the way down. Okay. All right, I'm going to do that, and then we'll take care of these raw edges on the excess apron tails. All right, so to hide these raw edges in, I'm just opening them up here on the ironing board, so it's connected there, and I'm just folding them in and then pressing them, and then folding it in half and giving it a good press and putting a few clips. So there's the end there. So that's to hide any raw edges. As you get closer here, You do have a good amount of seam allowance, so you should be able to at least fold each end in a bit. And so, yes. So I'm just doing it till I get to the beginning of my apron here. And I've already done the other side. It's all somewhere there. There it is. It's already done. So the last part kind of confused me a little bit, how to fold it back. I was thinking like this, but then the raw edge would be kind of sticking up closer to this. So what I did was I went and I trimmed between the one end and the other end. I just trimmed closer to the seam. I probably took maybe 1/8 of an inch off just so the raw edge would be on. And then I just am taking this part and just folding it up. So this is the back. So that's the front. This is the back. So I'm just folding it up. And when I fold it up from the front, I'm not losing any of this. And I'll be top stitching close to the top here, or from the back I'll just be stitching on this top line, and all my raw edges will be hidden inside. So I'm not quite sure. And then right here, I will just be stitching the ends, the bottoms here closed on my waistband on both sides. So we'll see how this turns out. Alright, so here's what mine looks like. I was pretty sure, you know, I did it my way on this one. I wanted a thicker waistband, but I was pretty sure I was supposed to fold this back like that, and then sew. I think that's what I was supposed to do, but it didn't give me such a wide waistband, and so I was thinking I wanted a wider waistband, so that's why I ended up doing the way that I did. But you know, that's my method. I might try something a little different on the next one, maybe making this a little bit wider so I can fold this back and then still have a wide waistband there. So anyway, it is done. Super cute. When you wear it and then you put the gathering on, you can pull your drawstrings, and then the drawstrings can go through this loop, right? And then once they're through the loop, like this, you can tie it, and then it will help hold this front piece up. But anyway, there is the Bushel apron. Hope you enjoy. Hope you get your own kit and make one. I've got one more kit to do. This is such cute fabric. Perfect fabric for doing any outside work. And happy sewing. Alright, so here's the apron when it's down. And I'm a little bit on the bigger side, and I've still got like plenty of string in the back to tie it. And this is where you would put all your stuff. So let's say you wanted to take your clips and put them in there. You can take a pen and put it in there. You can take your rotary cutter and put it in there. So it will hold stuff. And then once you have all your stuff in there, you just bring up your drawstrings and pull them through your loop and just gather it like that. There you go. Plenty of space there, and you can do it more if you want. I mean, you can pull it tight so everything is cinched nicely. You've got plenty of space there, and then you can just you can tie it off however you tie it off. And then there is your apron. So it holds everything that you've gathered, whether it's vegetables, flowers, maybe you're outside picking up toys, or maybe you're inside and you're wanting to carry things around. But that is the apron. Really cute, really easy to do, and hope you get one to make yourself.